Welcome into Rattler Up with Coach Walsh, live from San Marcos High School in the Rattler Broadcast Studio. This is where you've got to be every Monday night to keep track of all things Rattler Nation. I'm your host, CJ Odom, and with me as always, San Marcos Athletic Director and Head Football Coach John Walsh. Coach, 2 seasons of Rattler Up. Who thought we'd have gotten here?
We're here, and we haven't been here in a while, so I'm glad I'm ready to talk about it.
Glad to be back. We're going to be celebrating an entire year here as a year-end wrap-up show for 2022, 2023. And Coach, just thinking back, this whole idea started with, 2 years ago. You said, what if we need to do a show? We want to highlight athletics. We want to highlight those programs and all the kids and the coaches that are working hard each year. First year, we're in a Hayes County barbecue. Thought that was pretty good stuff. And boy, we've been able to move on up into the studio. These students are doing some wonderful jobs, putting set pieces and different camera angles together. Is this anything like what you imagined when you started this idea 2 years ago?
I think the first year is what I was used to. I was used to being at a venue, but we didn't have a facility like this, and so to incorporate the young men that make this studio roll, and incorporate with our athletic program, and it's been a blessing, and it's been a lot of fun to watch the set change, watch them work the lights and the cameras. It's been good.
Absolutely. We talk a lot about telling our story, and that's what we're going to do here today. That's what we do on this show every week, but especially today because we're going to tell the story of 2022-23. And this week we're going to go into the fall, the winter, the spring, look back on all the various highlights from all the different seasons. It has been an incredible year. You know that, but I want to remind people of all the great things that happened. We're going to look at playoff runs. We're going to talk about individual awards, watch some clips from the show and from different highlights of the season. And joining us live in studio, we're going to have volleyball coach Megan Aulette and boys basketball coach Dan Miller. Just a couple of representatives to represent some of the great stuff. It's a lot to talk about in one show, but I'm excited to do it.
Let's do it.
All right. Well, Coach, before we get looking at the year in review, let's talk about a couple of things that have happened recently that are really setting us up for a huge 23-24. And that first thing we want to look at is that spring football game from this past week. So in that spring football game, we got our first look at the Rattlers that are going to lead us in on Friday Night Football in the season of 2023. We're going to see some photos taken actually by one of our basketball players. Abel Trevino took some great shots during the spring game, but early on, Coach, what were some of your takeaways from spring game?
Well, just the spring ball in general was very productive. Just watching, we had a lot of, I'm always impressed with the job our staff does on our kids' retention of, the ball, the schemes, the strategies, and they come in and they're well beyond where I think they're going to be. So we get to progress pretty quick. We're always real physical in spring. We don't hold back, and the kids really rallied around that. And come spring game time, we just split up in even teams, and we have a good time. And it was a competitive game. The score didn't indicate a competitive game because of a couple turnovers, defensive scores, but it was a lot of fun. And I think the kids know if they reflect back on. We only do 18 workouts. Actually, we do 12 workouts. You get 18. We don't use all 18. From workout 1 to 12, I think if you asked individually how they progressed, they would be pretty descriptive on how they did progress.
Now, football fans know colleges, high schools, spring games have been a thing for quite some time. As a head coach, what are you trying to get out of it? What is your goal that night?
Yeah, obviously, you have to find your top 22, your starters on offense and defense. And we do that probably halfway through spring. And then by the time we get to the spring game, for me, it's always been make sure we have a good time, make sure, because the fans, they showed up to watch, and make sure they see a good product on the field. And we are free entertainment that night, so give them good entertainment.
Right. Well, I think they were entertained. They were also excited because, again, you're seeing what to expect when Friday Night Lights start in the fall, which will be here before you know it.
Quick.
I feel like we just sat down here to talk about the football season as it was happening. And here we are in May going into June, wrapping up the 22-23 season. Now, another great thing that's happened is San Marcos' participation in the 7-on-7 season.
Right.
This is a part that I don't think a lot of people are as familiar with. This is a newer, it's certainly not new, but newer piece to the football puzzle, so to speak. 7-on-7, and the Rattlers are headed to the 7-on-7 state championship. And let's look at the names that they defeated to get there. They beat Round Rock Westwood, Austin Bowie, Dripping Springs, and a state finalist in Vandergrift.
Right.
So, Coach, talk to folks about the 7-on-7 tournament. What's the deal with that? Some people don't understand a little bit about that, and how huge this is that we're headed to state. Yeah,
it's actually been around nearly my whole career. I remember in about 1997, I think it's when it started. So I've been able to be down there with a few different quarterbacks and teams, and for our guys to qualify the first round out in the Lake Travis tournament was pretty impressive. And in the 7-on-7 game, it's not like football. But what I do like about it is, you're throwing and catching and you're defending. And then for an offensive guy, you're getting a lot of red zone offense in. And conversely, getting a lot of red zone defense. You're only on a 45-yard field. But the biggest thing that happened that day was watching the resolve of our kids. If you look at the scores, every game we won to qualify, and we never lost, was we got the ball with 2 minutes to go and had to go score. And Cutter Gage, a quarterback, was able to orchestrate. Tony Diaz was uncoverable. Hank Harris had a good day. A lot of guys had. I could name a lot of names, but it was fun. It was fun for San Marcos. It was, and it gets your kids confidence they can play with the best of the best when you beat some of the best.
Absolutely. Now, where does Rattler Nation? Where and when do we need to be there to cheer them on?
So the state tournament's at Texas A&M College Station, June 20th. Actually, 21st and 22nd for us.
Okay. So we want to make sure and be there and support them. Rattler Nation, 7-on-7. We're going to state, and that bodes incredibly well for knowing what we got for our 23-24 season. But right now, for this episode of Rattler Up, we want to look back on the 22-23 season, and we're going to do it by season. We'll go fall, winter, spring, and we're going to take a look now at the fall season. And, of course, we know this gets started early in August. 2-a-day practices. Football gets started, cross country starts running races, volleyball starts training. You got the band out on the marching pad, Diamond Line is dancing, cheerleaders are cheering. When you get up here in July and August, you see a lot of action because people are getting ready for that fall season. And so after we know that started us up, the Rattlers got going right away quickly. 5 pre-district games to get us started for an all-new district. So we're learning new teams, we're learning new things, and get us ready for that push to the playoffs. And after the dust settled on that district round, the Rattlers had clinched that playoff berth, and we're headed to the bi-district round to face Brandeis. Now, as we talk, we're going to see some football clips here, Coach, from what was an incredible season. Some highlights from 2022. We're going to take a look at some of those. But, Coach, as these clips play, just what are some of your first and overall takeaways from that 22 season?
Yeah, I just think, we could have made it easier on ourselves. But, again, a turnover here, a special team score here, and we'd have clinched the playoff. We planned on beating the playoffs, but we'd have clinched it a lot earlier in the season had we taken care of our business. But, again, loving the resolve of the Rattlers. They didn't give up. They fought. They planned on. We worked to be in the playoffs. We call it the tournament. And they did, in the end, what they needed to do to be in the tournament and have a shot.
Well, and you see these clips are indicative of it, and exactly what you mentioned in 7-on-7, Coach. This team is never out of it.
No.
They never feel out of it. They don't play like they're out of it. If there's time on the clock, the Rattlers expect to come back and win the game. We saw that in 7-on-7, but that was pretty much the story of this 2022 season. Am I right?
Yeah, and we're going to say that, I think, throughout the whole show. I think every sport, there's been some kind of adversity or and we've overcome, and it's a credit to not just the players, but the coaches coaching those players.
So what are you seeing in some of these clips? What are some plays that stand out, some individual moments that you remember?
Well, I didn't pick these plays, but I am watching. I can tell a defensive guy picked them, so it's probably Coach Kleiber.
Lots of interceptions, lots of great.
But what I like about it is those are game-changing plays, and if, we're going to talk to some coaches in here, and momentum is a huge part of what we do. And it's hard to talk about and coach, but when you feel it, it's plays like that on defense that can turn it around and get your momentum, not just for a game, but for a whole season.
So as you look at those clips and we start thinking about 23-24, we've obviously going to have some new leadership on the field. What are some of the biggest changes that you think Rattler fans will notice right off the bat when they come on Friday nights this season?
I don't think the trenches, luckily the last 2 years we've been big in the trenches, and we've held our own at the 6A level for being physical and big on the offensive line and D-line. So that's not going to change. I think one of the changes will be, Cutter Gage at quarterback. He's a pure passer, and we've had a dual threat guy here the last few years, and I think Cutter's going to bring a different kind of style to our offense that I think Rattler fans are going to like.
All right, and we know obviously that we're talking way ahead of the game, but we're thinking about it, and with scouting what it is already, you can catch those huddle clips, and the preparation that you guys do on film is huge. It's so many of the hours that the coaches put into preparing. But is there a pretty marked advantage now going into year 2 in a district? I mean, yeah, you could have seen the clips from all those guys, but now we're going to play those guys again, swap the home and away. But otherwise, these are now squads that we've seen and we can prepare for. How big of a deal is that for you?
Yeah, 100%. We saw it the year before. As our staff was new down here, this area, it took us 2 years to figure out the Austin district, and so year 4 down here, we feel like we got a good grasp of football in this area now, and with our district, everybody's got different schemes and different philosophies, and I think as they learn us, we learn them, and so it'll be a fun year.
Well, what do you think you're looking most forward to? What's got you most excited going into that 23
I just think every year is a different year. It's just watching the makeup of this team. Every team's a different story, and I've been a head coach for 19 years, and it's been 19 different stories. So I'm just looking for what this story has to tell for us.
Well, Rattler Nation, we're excited to be out there Friday nights and catch that in the fall of 2023 to see that. But another team got going early on in the fall was our cross-country team. They made their mark. We got some clips here that'll show some mid-race, some finishing up on races. These are the teams that we know are out there. They are covering ground at all times. We see them in the neighborhoods surrounding the school. If you're dropping your kid off at school, you probably are seeing cross-country kids running in the morning. They were able to claim 5th in the district for the girls team, 6th in the district for the boys, and they were also able to send Ali Juarez and Marcos Morales on to regionals. So a terrific season for cross-country, got room to grow here. But, Coach, the interesting thing we saw here was even their coach got in on the success.
Oh, yeah.
Coach Michael Morris, as we talked about on a previous episode, had the 2nd fastest American time in the Los Angeles Marathon. So, I mean, even Coach Morris is jumping in on the success with cross-country. Coach, you got to love your coaches getting in there and demonstrating and modeling that kind of success, right?
Right. Like you see, when you mentioned in there in the neighborhoods, when you drive up and it's still dark and almost light, and your coach is leading the run out in the streets, it's you can't beat that. And those guys work. I mean, they work early and often all year long. And you mentioned Marcos and Ali, but they have some young talent coming up. The McLaughlin is a good one, and they have some. They got some other young talent that they're building a good program.
Right. Lots of middle school engagement, which we've talked about being so important.
Shoot, it's an elementary school here. I mean,
they've got running. Running is just a part of the curriculum now, K through 12, and we're starting to see the early. I feel like we're at the early stages of that long distance thing paying off.
No doubt.
For this team. Well, the other piece of fall, of course, is the volleyball team, and we are joined now live in studio by head volleyball coach, Coach Megan Nollette. And Coach, thanks for joining us here at the Rattler Broadcast Studio.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so we talked about the hours. Tell us a little bit about those summer hours for a volleyball team. I think people picture two-a-days, but if the guys are in pads out at the field, your girls are padded up and working hard in the gym in the summer pretty quickly, right?
Yes. Luckily, the one positive thing that hung over from COVID was the skill sessions. So that allows volleyball to have almost a real preseason like all the other sports get. So we start in June with about two each week of the 1 hour sessions. And then starting in July, we go daily, getting ready, start to come in with the skills, and then go out to get faster and stronger.
All right. Well, this year, great season for volleyball. 24-18 overall record. They were good for a 4th place district finish and that all-important playoff berth, right? As we talk about getting into the tournament. So talk to me about you had that. I feel like it was not turbulent necessarily, but there was a lot of fighting that your girls had to do, and they showed some heart doing that. So talk to us about just how the season developed, how the ups and downs flowed, and how great it was to finally know that you had clinched that spot in the tournament.
It was great. We actually started off the season, since I was late into the start I didn't get a whole spring semester with them. I started in July. So we got to know each other as the season started and start to learn how to win and fight through those things, because they'd lost a lot of key seniors the year before. Mm-hmm. And so it was building up that confidence while trying to still compete. And so they did really well. We went gung-ho the first round of districts. They went 4-1, were tied for first place, and knew they just had to get that one more win to get it in, and pumped when they got it. And then we saw senioritis.
Uh-oh. Well, and at this point, though, how huge is that? You mentioned you come in July, and so I think off-season is something that a lot of people don't necessarily put a lot of thought into, because as fans, we're just thinking about, all right, here we go, it's volleyball season. But the work that is done in January, in February, March, April, May for a volleyball team is crucial. So how big of a difference is that you are now here to make that happen and get these girls ready to head into their summer and ultimately their fall season?
It's big. So this year we've been able to establish some of the stuff that they want to do. We already have some goals set, some plans in place, different things we can look at. They now know me, and we have that mutual bond of this is what she expects, this is what we're going to do, this is what we're about, and just learning all of those pieces, and then now filtering that down to the kids coming up, even all the way down into 7th grade, just so that everyone sees the cohesion and it's building towards something, as opposed to it being distinct separations.
Right. I think that's another piece that a lot of fans maybe don't think about. Again, if you go on a Tuesday night or a Friday night and you're watching the game that night, but the work that goes, as you mentioned, all the way down to 7th grade to build a program. It's not about the 12 to 13 girls that are there on that varsity court and bench, but it's about the 50, 60, however many girls.
Yes.
So talk to us about how you've been able, again, by being here now for the full year, build that program and really make the whole thing exactly what you want it and what your vision is for the team.
So I've been able to go over once a week to work with both the 7th and 8th grade at Goodnight and Miller. And that's been very beneficial, getting to know the kids, then getting to know the coaches, and just working on establishing some of the norms that we have in the program already established on varsity. And then now also filtrating those norms all the way down to 7th grade and just getting the terminology the same. And then even just the concept of, at 7th grade, a lot of times you can win a lot of your games if you can just put the ball over every single time. But winning at 7th grade isn't going to always get you the win when you're on varsity. So just learning all those pieces of the puzzle together so that we can build a successful program that once you get varsity successful, it starts to trickle down all the way into 7th grade.
I think the most underestimated in that vertical alignment you're talking about is just, she said terminology, the language. Just being able to speak the language. If the middle school kids can come up and whatever's coming out of her mouth, they understand what she's saying, then you can teach this.
Because they already heard that from their other coaches, right?
Yeah.
So as you talk about, you had a lot of seniors leave. Now you've got kids returning. We got to that bi-district round against Clark. We weren't able to beat Clark, but we got that experience, right? Mm-hmm. How huge is that for these girls that are returning? Now they've experienced that, because that's a huge piece to be there. It's a bigger gym. It's more of a crowd. The pressure's on. Mm-hmm. How will it translate now that they've been there, done that, as we make our run to the playoffs this year?
Hopefully huge. Working just to see that how it finished isn't how we want it to finish this year. So we need to work on X, Y, and Z to make sure that doesn't happen. We did this year also lose again another 10 seniors. So I do have a core group coming back. So we only have 7 returners, but getting all of those pieces and with these returners and then the few adding up, it should be interesting because we'll all be on the same page and be able to move forward. So be one big unit.
Well, that's another piece I'm sure that you have to work on, especially when you lose that many. You only have 7 returning, is finding those leaders. Mm-hmm. What do you do to identify leaders or to develop leaders?
Luckily, my 2 best players stepped into that with Grace and Brinkley, and they've just been leading. Brinkley has had some guidance in her past from former players and even in club, and then just getting to know them, that they're now pushing forward and trying to set the tone for what they want now that they're the oldest and most experienced on the team. So that's helping a lot. And then the one perk of volleyball is some of the club volleyball stuff that they've gotten to do. So some of the other freshmen have now been experienced to club and gained some leadership roles on their club teams, and they're bringing that to the gym also.
That's, again, with club and select ball and various sports, these girls are playing all year long. There is no volleyball season, so to speak. There's just, which season am I in right now? Is that right?
Yes.
All right, well, Coach, we wish you the best of luck in 23. We're excited about having you come back in the fall and inform us as we get back in here weekly with Rattler Up in the fall for season 3. So we'll be glad to have you back, and good luck with everything in your upcoming season.
Thank you.
All right, well, we're going to take a commercial break, but when we come back, there is plenty more to talk about as this year-end Rattler Review continues here on Rattler Up with Coach Walsh. We're going to look at the winter sports and the incredible seasons that they had. All of that and more. Keep it here on Rattler Up. Welcome back to Rattler Up with Coach Walsh, and we continue our year in review session here as we wrap up season 2 of Rattler Up, and we're excited to move into the winter sports. We're going to put our jacket on and talk about those sports that make it through the winter months here in Rattler Nation. And Coach, this is when you get to take your football coach hat off somewhat.
Right.
But boy, you put that athletic director hat on, and this gets to be a busy part of the year for you. Is that correct?
Starts to get, we go indoors for a little while, and after football season, it just stays busy through winter and spring.
Right. Well, one team that we want to talk about is a swim team. They were excited. Another team, there's a laundry list, right, of advancers here, and they were able to send Leticia Cabrera off to regionals in the 100-yard breaststroke. And perhaps for swim, more so than the excitement of what happened for them this year, is the excitement for them about what's coming.
Right.
As we know, bond package passed, and Proposition D was a big part of that for Rattler Athletics. And the natatorium is coming to San Marcos High School. Coach, tell us about what that's going to entail and how exciting that is for the swim team and really just for the community of San Marcos.
Yeah, just for all of SMC ISD. You know, I've watched those kiddos get on a bus and have to travel to the academy and get their practice, and then come back to school every single day. So something was needed here, whether it was a natatorium or an outdoor pool, and our city decided it was going to be a natatorium. I went over to Westlake. Westlake has the only one high school district natatorium from here to Dallas.
Wow.
I don't know about Houston, but I know Southlake and Highland Park have one up there, and Westlake has one. So I went and investigated there just to get some kind of grasp on as we build ours. And they built a beautiful facility for $10 million. And so what we're going to get to put together here is going to be something really, really special that not just our aquatics is going to benefit from, but again, that all of SMC ISD will benefit from.
Right. And so that's a huge piece that we know was a part of the bond package. But talk about some of the outside of just the swim team. Like, how does this affect other age groups, other community members? What are some of the other positives coming out of that?
Well, the vision, we go on. For me, just a simple vision is we go on field trips everywhere. We go on field trips to the snake farm. We go on field trips to museums or the Capitol. We can go on a field trip in our city and work on water safety, work on swimming lessons, work on, maybe learn as you get older, maybe 5th or 6th or 7th graders, learn how to play water polo. We're gonna have a water polo team. So,
right.
There's lots. And then finding a way to partner with the city. I don't know what that's going to look like just yet. Mm-hmm. I came from a district that partnered with the city, and it was entertainment for family entertainment on the weekends and the summertime. So whatever we can come up with, we're going to make sure it's a San Marcos natatorium, not just an athletic natatorium.
Right. Well, and the one interesting thing when you talk about natatorium, you talk about the opportunity to add the water polo team.
Right.
My research indicates that is typically coached by the head football coach. Is that the plan here at San Marcos High School?
Hey, I've actually played water polo. So
well, there you go.
In the 7th grade, I lived in Australia, and there's you play cricket and water polo and things like that. So it's an aggressive sport. So if our swim coach needs some help, I'm there.
Coach Walsh may be in the water teaching. All right.
With my cap on.
All right. Well, another great sport that had some success through the winter and on into after spring break is the powerlifting team. And so we want to take a look. We've got some clips here of the powerlifting team in action. They continue the role that they've really been on for a number of seasons in a row here. When we look and see what the powerlifting team has been able to accomplish, they were able to send 2 of the boys powerlifters off to state in Zachariah Decker and Ezekiel Davila. So 2 more. And I say 2 more because this is getting to be a regular occurrence for this squad. And as you see here on the screen, our own Ezra Mendez takes 3rd place at state overall, setting personal records along the way. Again, powerlifting, just a program that is one of the newer programs here at San Marcos High School, and yet seeing that early success and setting a very high, pardon the pun, but a high bar for success in powerlifting. What's been so exciting about watching these athletes this year, Coach?
Again, just the work, and it's always different kind of work, right? Go to the pool, stay in the gym, be on the field, be on the court. Well, they live in the weight room, and there's a strategy to get those to be able to add weight to the bar and compete at this level. But what I love about watching these kiddos, and it's going to kind of blend in the rest of the show, is you see Zeke there. And he qualifies for state. Well, he's going to be on our basketball team here in a minute. And then we're talking about our top 10%. Well, he falls in that category. Ezra, phenomenal, placed 3rd in the state in powerlifting. and sings like a canary in our choir. You know, they're just everywhere. So that's what
she this week earned her certified veterinarian assistant license. I mean, she's all over the place. That's
fantastic. What I love most, and we're just talking sport part of it, but man, these guys are great and gals are great ambassadors for our city, and I get a firsthand look at it.
All right, well, another program, again, newer program, but early success that has just set the standard is our wrestling team. And again, when you make state just kind of the regular occurrence, that you've arrived where you want to be as a program. So in state this year, seniors Kaylin Martin and Jessica Banda qualify for state. Jessica ends up finishing 5th overall. And junior Anissa Moreno finishes 4th at state, so she's coming back to do it again. And overall, the team is ranked 14th in 6A as a wrestling squad. So Coach Garvin and the boys down there in the wrestling program will continue to do well. How do you handle the pressure? You've experienced this when your expectation is almost now, it's not do you get to state, can we get to state? How many are you going to get to state?
Right.
That's a shift in expectation. It's got to be hard to maintain for a coach and to keep players where they need to be.
You know, I think, yes, you're exactly right. And this is the most unfamiliar sport to me. I've never dealt with wrestling in my entire career until I got here. And now it's probably one of my favorite times of the year. And when I get to go to watch a wrestling match and watch our kids compete, because it's like a chess match, but it's physical and exhausting. And to watch Garvin and Coach Cross are great coaches, they're great program builders. And the expectation really starts, I keep going back to the city, but the same names are in our wrestling program, the Bondas, the Morenos, and they got their own gyms downtown helping build this culture for us. As, you know, we want to play 7-on-7 in the summer. You want your kids to be wrestling somewhere.
Right.
And so Garvin's a great coach, but he's getting great products from their mamas and daddy because they know how to wrestle when they get to us.
Right, and so just again having that deep community impact, which is so much of the success. You know, we see it in the typical ways: Pop Warner football,
right.
Little League basketball, Little League baseball. But you know, we're expanding to that, to have that in basketball. We plan to have that with water sports, and so that community impact is in fact huge. So speaking of basketball, girls basketball, we've got a highlight package. If we can go ahead and run that, girls basketball had a very young team. This is a team that fought hard. Again, another theme that we're seeing throughout this episode as we go into the year in review. Girls basketball, very young team, and just scratch, clawed. You kind of talk about maybe lower expectations, because not from a low expectation, but just from not really knowing what they had.
Right.
They kind of came into this season a little unsure of what to expect. And they went out there and they took care of business and came together as a unit. So as we watch this, Coach, what were your takeaways from the girls' basketball season?
So they remind me a lot of where the boys were a couple of years ago. You know, there's 8 team sports. In the last 2 years, 6 of our 8 team sports have made the playoffs. They made the playoffs last year with a bunch of seniors that graduated. And we have, if you came to a girls' basketball game, there were going to be quite possibly 3 freshmen on the floor at the same time with a sophomore at point guard. I remember watching our boys 3 years ago thinking, man, this team's going to be really good eventually. And if they stay the course like our boys did, then they got some special stuff ahead of them.
Yeah, it's really exciting to know when it's still to come. And I think that's interesting for a coach to know, hey, this year maybe didn't pan out the way you want. Maybe even next year isn't quite the goal. But to have such a long-term goal here in a couple of years, something special might happen. But we've got it, exactly like you said, we got to stay the course. We've got to stay on par. And so how does a coach maintain something like that when you've got such a long-term goal with a young team?
You got to keep painting the picture. I mean, because when they're young and they don't make a playoff run or they get beat in the first round, like our boys didn't make the playoffs. Coach Miller was here the first year and they got beat the first round. You got to keep painting that picture for them. I mean, because they're not going to paint the picture. That's a coach's job. Keep that picture in front of them and keep painting it, and then before you know it, that thing's painted and you're making special runs like our boys did.
Well, let's talk about that run. Let's talk about the man that did the painting, and he did a wonderful job. We're joined live in studio by head basketball coach Dan Miller. Coach, thanks for joining us on Rattler Up.
Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
All right, well, let's just get started right off the bat, Coach. I don't even know what to say. What a run. What an incredible run. It was so fun to see the community come together. Which is, again, another theme of the episode, right? But we've got such a wonderful community in Rattler Nation supporting us to be at those gyms and to pack those houses, to make it so that others couldn't even come in. I mean, we literally had a game where people were watching from outside through a glass window. my first question is just, what were your thoughts? What was that run like for you on the sidelines?
It was fun, and the crazy thing about it is if it wasn't for our great last 2 minutes in our first round game, we wouldn't have had that run.
Right.
We trailed the Clark team, that first round, and here you're sitting there as a coach. We put so much into this season, and we had a great season, won the district, and we needed something special to come together. And I heard Coach Walsh talking about earlier on the program, facing a little adversity. All the teams have in some capacity, and that was part of ours, and we were able to overcome that, and then we were able to get on a roll and continue that. But it was just special, and I think the most special part about it was twofold, really. It was a senior class, and they deserve that, after going through all they've been through, coaching change, COVID, different things, injuries with some of the main guys. To have that for them was special. And then just for the city, like Coach Walsh said, it was just a special kind of bringing the city together for a couple weeks.
So as we talked with Coach Walsh just now about painting the picture, how did you manage that? Again, this was a squad, and you weren't necessarily here that freshman year. But when you arrived to campus, you're inheriting something that people are expecting to see great things from. How do you personally, as a professional, manage that for yourself? And then how did you keep the kids on track toward their goal?
Yeah, we just really stay in the moment. We tell our guys always just be where your feet are. Let's have the best practices in the state of Texas each day and just stay in the moment. And we had to be careful not to read the press clippings a little bit because we had a talented team. And, I think the first year there maybe was just a little bit of that. But they stayed in the moment. And, that first year, we were 1 point away from advancing. We felt like if we could have got out of that first round, maybe we would have made a run then too. But this year was a different team, and they were just more senior heavy. Getting Javen Kofer was a big for us.
Huge.
Stepping in there this year as a hungry senior to play on varsity finally. And then just staying in the moment, and I would say that the guys really, truly had a next play mentality. We had several games where, yes, we put some teams away early, but there were a lot of games that we were down, including our first district game at home, and we stayed in the moment and next play mentality and found some success.
So I didn't prep you for this, so I apologize if I put you on the spot, but I'm really curious, in that run, is there a story that you haven't told yet? Is there something interesting that happened in a locker room, at a halftime, on a bus, somewhere? We all know the main parts of the story, but is there a behind the scenes that we would be interested to know about along the way?
There were several, and, I think that all the games were really special, but the second round game that we played at Austin Bowie versus Westlake was a lot of fun. We knew that the gym would be packed. But that was a day, that was a tough day for our district. Obviously, a tragedy hit our district, and the guys really felt that. And then to see the Rattler just everywhere, the Rattlers cheering us on. But then all of a sudden, they didn't miss a shot. We're down 11-0, and I just remember calling a timeout and just say, "Calm down, guys. Just do what we do." And once we got on a roll, you could see the first time that I've ever seen, because Westlake, because we played them last year and they just smashed us 2 times. That you could see it in their eyes, and I just felt like I remember turning and looking at our coaches. I said, I think we got these guys. If we just can keep the pressure on and we spread them out. But I'll tell you, the funny story at halftime was when we ran up to, we took Cash Good, took a layup coast to coast, and we score. And we're excited, and our guys are just celebrating and running up the stairs because our locker room was up the stairs. Zeke, we just saw him in the clip. He didn't know any better. He just saw all these people waiting outside, so he opened the door, and some of the fans started coming in. All of a sudden, they had coaches and police officers push all those fans out, and Zeke goes, "My bad, coach." So that was kind of a funny story, and the guys still teasing him about letting fans in at the Westlake game at halftime.
But I remember that moment was when he was down 11-0. You called a timeout. I think Kofer hit 3 straight threes, maybe.
Yeah. Yes, sir. He got hot.
He got us back in a hurry.
Right.
He did.
Well, I think it exemplifies what we've talked about across programs is you just don't count Rattlers out.
No.
This year as a district, we've rallied around "Don't Doubt Us," right?
Right.
And I think that our athletics program and your basketball team has really exemplified that. Is it something you speak to a lot? Is it something you say, guys, when we get down, we can't let it get down? Is it something that just naturally develops? How do you create that on your team?
Yeah, I think it's like Coach said. It's just belief. It's just you just got to have belief. We always believe this year we're going to win the game, and even to the very end. I know we got hit pretty hard in that last game to go to state, and they got us that second quarter. It was just a tough second quarter, and they just jumped out at a big lead. But we just felt it maybe till the fourth quarter till we couldn't do it anymore. But we always just believed we were going to come back and win if we were down. If we had the lead, we felt confident. Part of that, a lot of that, is just senior leadership, having the guys who just are really together, been through those battles. But it was a fun group, and they believed it. It was fun to make that run. One game short of getting to state, but I told the guys, never look back with any regret because they laid it all on the line. And 38 wins it's really hard in high school basketball.
I think it's the most in the state of Texas, right?
Yes, sir.
38 wins is the most in the state of Texas.
Right. And I think that's tough for those kids because in that moment, obviously, they didn't accomplish what they wanted. And then it's a matter of how much time between then and are they able to sit back and go, what we did was special.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's great. So, Coach, talk to us. We know we're losing. We talk about those seniors, right? But talk to us about some of these college plans that some of our seniors have. We're excited to know they get to continue their playing career and represent the Rattlers often in D1 college ball.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's always good if they find the right fit. You
Right.
know, and that's why I like all four guys that are going on to play. Matthias will be a great fit at Concordia. They press and they're fast, and he's very athletic and fits that mold. And their coach has been here. I think he came to 8 of our games, that's a lot for a college coach. And he was in Austin, so they really like Matthias. And then Javen Kofer is going to a D1 junior college, Coffeyville. Nice fit there. Their point guard actually just transferred, or just moved up to Division I. So they want to play Javen at point guard, which he's excited about.
And just national championship, right?
Yep, in
program?
2021.
Right.
Coach Herkelman, I've known him for a while. Just a great coach. He's a great fit for Javen. And then Malik at Vanderbilt, high academics, SEC. He wanted to play in one of the big conferences, and I think he'll do wonderful there. And then, of course, our hometown guy, staying home, Texas State, Caden Gums. Just like Maggie, I just think it's a perfect fit. Both of them could have maybe went other places, but they found that fit, and that's what it's all about. So we're excited about that.
Right. So what advice do you have for Jaden's parents now that he's going to be playing at Texas State? Having put a season in there.
You get to see you go every time you can. I mean, that's the biggest thing that Caden is going to feel when he gets there is you're going to see purple in Strahan, which is you want to play in front of people you know.
All right, well, Coach, thanks for joining us on Rattler Up. Congratulations on, again, I want to make sure the word gets used often, a historic season. The wins, the run, it was fantastic. Congratulations to you and your team.
Yeah, it was fun. Thanks for having me.
All right, well, Coach, good luck on the 24 season, of course, and we're going to head to break, and our break is special. We're going to actually go to our break, and it is our full-on highlight package of that run, some of the huge highlights and clips, lots of dunks, lots of 3 points. This is a fun team to watch. It was just a great time to watch. So we're going to go to that clip, and when we return, we'll talk spring sports when we return back here on Rattler Up. All right, welcome back to Rattler Up with Coach Walsh. Coach, we got through the fall, we got through the winter. If we stopped here, it was a successful year for Rattler Athletics. But, our spring sports went and did all sorts of great stuff as well. We want to talk about that as well. And so, now golf and tennis, we plugged them in here. They play all year long. Golf and tennis, they're playing all year long.
Absolutely.
Their district meets kind of end up in the spring, which is where we kind of lump them in. We talked to Coach Mungia about with the golf team on one of our last episodes. Man, what a work he's done to field a team. We've talked about wrestling and powerlifting being new, golf not so new, but just having to get the development that he talked about to get players, just to find some of the teammates that he had on the show. Some of his top golfers just picked up a set of clubs this year. So we're excited to see what they could do moving forward. And then tennis, just another individual sport to get somebody to qualify. They had a boys doubles team as regionals alternate, and Nicholas Hall and Ansel Markenthal. And of course, Nicholas then going to go on to play at Shriner College in the fall for Shriner College, play tennis. Now, track saw some great success again. Again, they're starting to get some real traction as far as just making this a regular occurrence for the track team. We can watch some highlights of that track team as we go over some of the numerous qualifiers that they had. The girls had a number of regional qualifiers, including Kiera Green in the triple jump. Alexandria Juarez went to regionals in both the 800 and the 1600. And Alicia Pearson made it in the long jump, in the high jump, in the 100.
And that's her right there.
And there she goes. It's not even close, Coach. That's what a great clip that is. And she also makes it in the 4x100 relay alongside her teammates Lila Kennedy, Melina Burley, and Marley Myers. Now, the boys, they send David Vasquez along to area in the 300-meter hurdles. And we see some clips here of some of the. There we go. There's a triple jump going by. And, of course, Xavier Harris makes it all the way to state to cap off what was just an incredible athletic career at San Marcos High School for Xavier. So let's talk Xavier for a little bit. There's so many themes that we have in Rattler Athletics. Is Xavier not a perfect representation of a number of those themes?
100%, because he played, he was a football player, basketball. He was on that basketball team previous years, choir. Great student, just a model student athlete, right? And he chose to sacrifice, and he knew what he might be doing to not play basketball that year because he wanted to make his next 4 years in college centered around the triple jump, you know, and find the school that he wants to go to triple jump to get his bachelor's degree, and it worked out exactly. And I would watch him in the stands of those basketball games. I wonder what Xavier's thinking right now, because he could have helped at any time, but he had a plan, and he had a goal, and he put the work in, and he did exactly what he set out to do, and he got a scholarship. He won the district, he won the area, he won the region, and then he was sitting there in state with a chance to medal over at UT a couple weeks ago. So he's a great story. And comes from a great family, high character. He's going to be missed. Yeah,
he's just an epitome of so many of the things that we're trying to make happen here in Rattler Nation.
Absolutely.
So we're excited to see him. Sad to see him go, but glad that he's going to be able to continue with all that. Now, soccer again, kind of starting the winter. They wrap up in the spring. The boys soccer, they struggled. Some new faces, a lot of new on a boys soccer team that is hard to find. So really, your challenge is looking at the 22-23 season to say, okay, what victories did we have to set us up for a successful 23-24? And it seems like all signs are pointed up for that boys soccer team.
Yeah, absolutely. And they, again, success breeds success, and they're surrounded by all these other programs that there's an expectation, and I think they want to meet that expectation.
Right. And then on the other side, still on the same pitch, the girls soccer team, they had a fighting season. Again, a fight's another word we've used a lot here today. They were 10-8-4 overall, good for third place in the district, and qualified for the playoffs. Now, they weren't able to overcome Reagan in that by-district round, but, man, some great things from that girls soccer team. Really, we saw momentum really carry the day with some incredible athletes on the field for the girls, right?
Yeah, if there was any program that I've seen the most improvement from one year to the next, it was them. I mean, their culture change. Coach Hormuth did a great job of building it in her personality, and just seeing the level of soccer from her first year to the second year of ball control it was fun to watch. And I'm nowhere near a soccer guru, but I know when I see good soccer and bad soccer, and we had some good soccer going on.
Well, and as you said, it was noticeably better, not from previous year to this year, but game to game in the season, you saw them playing better. You saw them communicating better. Passes were crisper, and it paid off. They got the all-important playoff berth. One more team that made it here in the Rattler Nation. Now, we've got some clips from our softball team. Coach Stoughton was in here with some of her players, and so we'll take a look at some softball clips. This one here is fun. This is a last minute, got to clinch it up 4-3 in the bottom of the seventh. And so we've got to make some plays here. We get the out at third to hold on to the victory. They had some big wins along the way in a tough season. The injury bug really struck them hard to put some of the momentum together they needed. But what did you see that lets you see that they've got the pieces to start strong again next year?
Yeah, they've been, Coach Stoughton's been a playoff qualifier here for a long time, and I got no doubt they would have been. This is, like I said, every team's got a story. You mentioned the injury bug. The first game I made early in the season, our starting center fielder and leader of the team, had an injury that kept her out all year long. We had a young pitcher that was coming into her own and had a big win before she got sidelined. And then the other pitcher was injured. So it just never stopped.
Yeah.
I mean, it really never stopped. They lost another infielder, but they kept battling. And I think if they would have been healthy, there's no doubt we'd have had 7 of 8 in the playoffs. But they'll be back. Softball's been pretty steady here.
It's a long-standing, successful program. And then that leaves baseball, right? We wrap it up in the spring with baseball. Now, if you checked with Coach Webb at the opening district game that they dropped to East Central, you would not have been talking to a happy man, right?
No.
Now, I love Coach Webb. I don't know how often you're ever talking to a happy man in Coach Webb. He's very intense. He's very focused.
We'll just call him Moody.
Right, but that night, he was certainly not in a good place. But if you fast forward to April 28th, and now the team is clinching the district championship. They're finishing with a 25-12-2 record and are headed to the playoffs. From the first district game loss that he felt like shouldn't have happened to what we saw at the end of the season, clinching it. What a season, what a run. And as we talk playoffs here in a minute, what did you see from that team throughout the season?
I think when you asked Coach Miller earlier about adversity, and I think all good coaches that understand our trade and coaching kids is you want that adversity. Like that East Central game they lost, if when it happened, I didn't like it either, but I thought, all right, this is going to be really good for us if they handle it the right way.
Right.
And you knew Coach Webb was going to, but just the senior class as a whole, and then Cutter's a junior, Reagan's a junior, so the whole team was full of leadership. And man, the stance they took after that game for the rest of the district was impressive.
Right, and then so we get to Bi District. We take care of Churchill in 3 games. That brings up Lake Travis, kind of an old foe. We go 3 games with Lake Travis. You were there. Talk about that Lake Travis series. We're not able to win that area round, but that was a heck of a 3-game baseball series.
It was good. Game 1, I thought we were in it early, but you could feel it slip away. And then Game 2, we were in complete control of. So we played a doubleheader with Game 3 that next day, and it got hostile. It got competitive. Both ADs were having to work the whole day at Dripping Springs, but man, they competed, and we had opportunities. We had runners on with a chance, just down 3, with a chance to make it a tight ball game and maybe put some pressure on them. But you know how baseball is. Sometimes you hit it right to them, and I think we hit it right to them, and we just couldn't get those runners in.
Well, huge run, get 2 rounds deep into the playoffs. So congratulations to the baseball team, and congratulations to all our spring sports. And then that, of course, brings us to the end here on Rattler Up. We were able to sit back and just go through all that happened in 22-23. It was truly an amazing season for the Rattlers, and I hope you've enjoyed looking back on it with us. Coach, we want to also remind people there's ways to see a lot of the stuff that happened over the spring in our all-new VYPE magazine. So those copies of this VYPE magazine are now currently out at every elementary campus. So you can catch, if you're interested, there's paper copies there. We want all our young Rattlers to see what they can do when they get to Rattler Nation and when they get to San Marcos High School. And if you just look for VYPE San Marcos, Google VYPE San Marcos, you can get a digital copy of that. We talked about it in the fall. The fall publication was a rousing success. People were loving it, highlighted individual students, highlighted programs, just made people understand what it's like to be at San Marcos High School. Talk a little bit about what they see in the spring magazine.
Yeah, the same things. It's one I want to point out. It's not just an athletic magazine. Right. It's, we cover the athletic. We try to cover all our fine arts. You had a great 2-page layout of the CTE programs, our clubs, our bike club, our mariachi. We just covered everything. And again, just to reiterate what you said, we want our young Rattlers. If we have 93% of our kids at the high school in athletics, fine arts, and CTE, we want to make it 98% next year. And then eventually, when everybody's coming to school for something besides reading, math, and history, then it brings more life, it brings school spirit, and it gives you more purpose.
Right, gives them that connection piece.
Yeah.
That's what we want people to be.
Yeah.
So check out our VYPE magazine, again, available in all our elementary schools in a paper version for those kids, but also just Google VYPE San Marcos, and you'll see that as well. So, Coach, just a quick year in review. I ran this by at the preview. This has got to feel good to hear these words at the end of the year. Playoff appearances by football, boys basketball, girls soccer, and baseball, plus individuals advancing in wrestling, powerlifting, swim, tennis, and track. State championship representatives in wrestling and powerlifting. For the last 2 years now, we've had 2 programs set school records in victories, including last year's volleyball team, this year's boys basketball team. When you look at the top 10 students in this graduating class, 6 of those 10 in athletics, We have scholars on our athletic program. Rattler Nation, they are student athletes.
Right.
And they're the epitome of that. And 23 athletes get to continue their careers at the college level. That's a successful year, Coach. Congratulations.
Well, appreciate it. And what it is it just reminds me that I get to work with the cream of the crop in the city of San Marcos every day, and that's why I love waking up in the morning and do what we do.
If you were to zoom back, big picture, we went over the fall, we went over the winter, spring, accomplishments, awards, medals, championships. What are you most proud of for Rattler Nation here in your third year as an athletic director?
You know, people talk about culture, and and they'll put PowerPoints up about culture and say we want to build culture. I'm a believer in you feel culture, and it feels good here. I mean, I think I don't know what it was like before or what it's going to be like after, but I think people like being in our culture right now in athletics, and we have a really good time doing what we do. We're successful at it, and it bleeds over to the classroom.
Absolutely. It's that rising tide for all ships, and I think that's what athletics is trying to do, raise the profile for all of San Marcos CISD, and that's part of this show. This show wants to do that so we can highlight that. So we want to make sure just to thank some people. We thank them at the end of the show, but really take a moment. First of all, our partners, we mentioned VYPE. We've been on the VYPE YouTube network this whole time, and that is thanks to our partner Josh. He's in the studio right now. We got to see him on the episode where I took the camera, as bad as that was. At least we got to put the camera on some folks that deserve those thanks. So we really appreciate Josh for all the work that he does to showcase us here on VYPE and make sure that people see the Rattler Nation and see Rattler Up regularly. We want to thank Jack Moore. He's the teacher of the audiovisual and digital communications program in the CTE department. He helps run things here in this Rattler broadcast studio. If you watched that episode, and if you didn't, go back and watch the archives. We actually showed you around the studio to let you see the incredible equipment that these kids are working with. And then we want to thank those kids. I mean, there's kids that are up here. Look at it, 7 o'clock on a Monday night.
Right.
They could be elsewhere. They are in that booth right now, hitting the buttons, turning the graphic dials, putting all the cameras and lights on us.
Tell me where to look.
Telling me to turn my microphone on back from commercial because I forgot to. Just doing all the work that they did. They create graphics. They create set pieces. They've designed things. Anything that you've enjoyed about Rattler Up this week or this year has been a result of those student technicians that are in there. So we thank them a great deal. We're so incredibly proud of the work that they did. So, Coach, before we wrap up, we've wrapped up a 22-23 school year. There's really no rest for the weary. We know you've already done a laundry list of items for the 23-24 school year. Do you have any fun summer vacation plans? Do you get to go do something great this summer to just relax and reset?
It's different for us because my wife and I have always, every vacation we've had, I can't remember, has centered around volleyball or football because they put us in destinations. So we're searching. We're going to go to a coast. We're beach bums, so we're going to find a coast for sure.
But the fact that you get to pick it and you're not just going where Maggie's tournament is huge.
And I do not have to hear whistles in between. Yes.
Absolutely. Well, Coach, I want to thank you. Thank you for bringing me along for the ride. We're 2 seasons in. I hope this has done what you wanted this show to do because it's been a lot of fun being a part of it.
No, 100%. I knew when I first heard you at a basketball game that this was the guy that needs to run this platform, and we appreciate you.
All right. Well, we're excited. We thank you for joining us for Season 2 of Rattler Up. Enjoy your summer. We'll be back in Season 3. We'll make sure all the information gets out to you to find us. But we're going to be back. Rattler Up Season 3. We got to keep focusing on these athletes and all these great things that are going on in Rattler Nation. So for Coach Walsh, I'm CJ Odom, and thank you for joining us once again here on Rattler Up.